everyone, and welcome to our podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of speaking with Adan Ramirez. Inventor and visionary of green technologies, Adan Ramirez has a background in biotechnology and high technology management. Adan co-founded Greenfluidics, a biotechnology company that accelerates the transition of sustainable cities by transforming buildings into lungs for the city. He has been named MIT Inventor of the Year, Innovator Under 25 in Germany and India, and Young Leader of the Americas in the United States. He is a global representative of SDG 13 in 150 plus countries in collaborations with Deloitte. Enjoy. Especially like any solutions around built environment and smart cities really excites us. I have a question. How did you decide to move towards more like an environmental field in biotech? Because when we think about biotech or hear about biotech, we usually assume like consumer solutions, right? Like individual solutions. How did you decide to like move towards environment?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when you hear biotech, it's like immediately related with vaccines and all this stuff related with health. Not so. Yeah, I mean the biotech is really have a lot of applications, not only on this area. So I decided to move to this area because since the beginning, I thought that I can give a really impact not only on thousands of people, also in millions of people. So I mean, since we began on that, is that we decided to apply this to the environmental because I mean, is where we live, you know. So that we decided in order to impact millions of people related with the environment, related with cities, and I mean all the time is like growing up there, all the population that is moving to the cities from some other areas to the big cities, and the population is increasing. All the developments and buildings are also increasing. So I mean, that's how we can impact the life of millions of people, but more than impact, how to improve them. Because at the end, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that we are going to be there. I mean, we are going to be on that case. I mean, probably we are going to think about that. Probably we're planning. I mean, this is not going to happen to all, but suddenly we are going to be there. So I mean, if we decide to have like a really good future for us, for our sons and all our relatives, is that I mean, how we can make like this big change. And first is to decide to go from the science, from all this science background that most of the time is like really square, you know, it's like you have to do it this way, you have to write down papers and all this stuff. And that's great because at the end, this is how we discover the things. But how to move from this decision to be only focused on that to the real application. So I mean, in a few words, is how to decide to go from your comfort zone to your uncomfortable zone, totally. So that's why, I mean, since I was a child, I think that I was a child very, not hyperactive, but I think that very curious. I think that I was a curious child that trying to do the things in a different way. So basically, I decided to do the biotech in a different way.
Yeah, and it's definitely not the easiest way to do it too. Knowing the industry and how things move and change very slowly in the built environment industry too. So we greatly appreciate when we see people who are like taking the challenge to push for that change. I guess like if we were to like touch upon some of our issues around built environment, you did mention the growing population in our cities. Globally, we just hit like what, 8 billion, right? So we're like really just like growing in numbers, and cities are getting most impacted by this. So we're constantly building, and we're not necessarily in the technologies that we're building, we're very, very archaic, right? And like the overall industry, I think, is very much lagging compared to where we see like change and shifts happening in some other industries. But And also, I guess, like, based on where you are, you also see some things that are more frustrated. Like, we're a studio based in New York City and Istanbul, and we have like sheer comparison in how we build changes based on the demographic that you're in. And you probably saw so many things happening in Mexico as well. What are some of, I guess you did mention like the population aspect, also the issues around construction and how we build today that really calls for that innovative change?
Yeah, I mean, at the end, it's like all these buildings that are built on the last decades is like still here, you know, and it's going to happen the same when tomorrow or the next week develop a new building is going to be still there for probably the next 50 to 70 years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, why not since the beginning or help to others to basically retrofit these old buildings that at the end is going to be better and help them to retrofit it than build a new one. How to reach, I mean, this now in an environmental and a healthy way in order to still there for the next decade, because if we don't know, if we don't do something related with that, it's like nobody else is going to do anything like it. So yeah, it's hard now to grow. I mean, we know that at the end the population is still growing. I mean, that's insane that a few days ago we
Yeah.
reached this 8 billion, and I think that is going to be faster the growth in the population. I mean, now we reached 8 million, 8 billion, sorry. So probably in some years more, 9, 10 is going to be really crazy. Hope to see that. So where they are going to live? In buildings, right? Because at
Yeah.
the end, the space will like going over and overpay. So basically, is to think where we are going to live there, where are going to be all the places that we want to visit, to go, whatever. So I mean, at the end, is how to think about our future. If we will be thinking about how will be our future, please think where will you like to live? Where would you like to go? Where would you like to visit? Where would you
Yeah.
like to work? Not so that's why it's very interesting for me for all the people that are related with this project with Greenfluidics and all this stuff to think, yeah, on the cities of the future, but more than that, to think about the cities we deserve, I think.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because in the end, it's not just about creating a massing, right? Like, we're not necessarily just demanding a shelter anymore. We have expectations about how we live too. Like, there's also many, many people that we're not able to provide electricity yet, right? But how do we do that sustainably, and how do we scale that sustainably is a big, well, not a question mark. There are many like brilliant brains working towards it, but we're still not there yet. Um, so can you tell us more about Greenfluidics in the sense that like the solutions it's like trying to come up with, and where is it today?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think that a great thing here is, again, I mean, to think about the cities, about to think the development of the cities, how we like to be. So basically, the first thing here is to think that what happened in these big cities. I mean, and they give the example of New York, all the cities that when you are there, I mean, that, I mean, it's really amazing, surely. But if you think about like mm, something like the great view of how, I mean, more than that, how to bring back more nature that we have, because at the end, I mean, we need to be in contact with nature, not so how now to bring back this to the cities in a efficient way, not only to plant more trees and all this stuff, because yeah, it could be part of the solution, but not is the real solution, you
Yeah.
know? So that's why from the biotechnology view, how to think about microorganisms, how to think about their life organism in order to help this. So basically, the solution that we developed is the intelligent solar bio panel. That, in a few words, is we think. Well, we share that is the perfect combination between design, nature, and technology. So we're using microalgae, that are these organisms that we can find in basically any any place where is water, basically. So yeah, this microorganism is doing photosynthesis. So as a tree, release oxygen, absorb the carbon dioxide, and it's great. But now in a small scale. So we took this microorganism and we combined with solar cells that basically is everywhere. Also, it's interesting how now the solar cells appear, so it's everywhere now. But I mean, we took the solution to combine with microalgae with a triangular design, and we now is thinking how to take advantage of the building facades in order to change this traditional building facade and to put these biopanels in order to generate energy, also give more energy savings related with the thermal comfort. I mean, because on some places, I mean, they have to use a lot of the air conditioners on all this stuff, but they are consuming a lot of energy. So how to replace that? Well, with an efficiency and thermal comfort facade. So with this technology, basically, we are giving also this thermal comfort. And at the end, also we are providing an avant-garde design to the buildings, because most of the time, and nowadays, is like architects and real estate developers are trying to reach these environmental certifications to mention our building is sustainable. And if you want to go there here and comply with your think about sustainability, you can go there. But at the end, it's only to comply with the words as LEED certification, BREEAM, whatever. So now we're giving the opportunity to create real green buildings, because these biopanels provide a green coloring for sure, but also at the same time semi-transparency, so you can see through these biopanels. And basically is to create artworks in the building facades with this technology. So I mean, it's a regenerative technology that, again, summarizing, generate energy, mitigate the carbon footprint, and provide an avant-garde design to the building facades. And basically it's a life system that is helping to bring back to the city the nature, but now in a more efficient way. And for sure, as all the new technologies, to take advantage of all the data monitoring in order to create now more intangibles through that, and also give a traceability, to give this this trust to the clients, to the people, to the society, to say how is working this building, how we are in touch with this environmental way, on to attract more people and to give like this awareness related with the sustainability. And at the end, I mean, help to the developers, to the architects, to decrease the value of the area related with environmental benefits, but also help them to create like these new buildings for the next 50, 70 years, and to say, here is better, here is environmental regeneration, here is a health regeneration, you can live here, you can work here. And at the end, you as a final user, you can feel better, because at the end, when you are close to the nature, you are feeling better. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a small plant in your workspace or something else there, but basically when you are touched with the nature, you are feeling better. You want to be there. So now is a thing, because at the end, we want to live, we want to work on a healthier space more than ever. In a post-pandemic, more than ever, we want to work and live in a healthy place. So this how our solution is giving all these opportunities, not only for one people, basically for thousands of people that will live there, and also for the city. So that's why we mentioned that our technology is helping to create the first long buildings for the city. So basically is building new builds, but with purpose now, a building with purpose, I think.
Well, I have so many thoughts, and this is all like fascinating, and it's such a good point. Like, if the pandemic wasn't a case study enough in itself that our built environment is failing us. And during a global health crisis, I don't know what is. So in that sense, I hope we have some learning from there to like really implement into our built environment. And also to your point, in bringing nature to cities, I think there's a lot of conversation around this. And one frustration we have in seeing, there's so many greenwashing, right? Like
Yeah.
there are architectural renders that looks so lush and green because all the balconies are surrounded by like trees, in theory, and then like in real life when you see the building there's like one plant on the balcony, right? So in that sense, I love how the technology enables the buildings itself being the lungs of the city, right? So it's not only about just like planting things, it's more also about like how does what we build or what we have already adapt in a way that is closer to nature and acts more like nature. Because exactly to your point, the existing massing we have right now in our cities is not going anywhere. So how do we have them function better? With all of that, I think, sometimes like when we're looking at like new technologies, new building capabilities, construction technologies, we're also seeing how the existing regulations, in addition to mindsets in place, is restricting the growth of the technology, right? Like, for example, there's a lot of exploration around more building like wood-based materials, and then you could see in US, like from insurance companies, they don't want to give insurance to those buildings because there isn't proven enough data yet that it works, and therefore it's not favored in US. Or, obviously, and this is natural to the tech industry, but not necessarily to the built environment, because built environment historically has been taking whatever is built as a benchmark and just build something similar, which is keeps it like the risk of that is like you become irrelevant by the time you're complete, right? And so with that, in the tech industry, when we look at an initial prototype and if it's expensive, that's normal because we know it's going to take a few iterations to really be able to make it economically scalable. Whereas in built environment, the attitude is, oh, that was really expensive and it didn't work, so we can't do it, right? Like they need to see like what they want to see one example to like claim that it's too expensive and doesn't work. And same discussions happened around, aquaponics, urban farming, all of that. So, and you did mention the goal also is to gather data, right? Which is, I guess, so powerful not to only prove how it's working, but also to gather evidence to even like scale the product to other cities. So with all these challenges, the mindsets that the industry has, the existing regulations that are outdated, so they can't catch up with, the technologies that are available, how are you planning on, and this is a really big question, but how are you planning on navigating these challenges that will come in your way?
Yeah, firstly is to think about what regions could be for sure relevant for all these pilot tests to demonstrate to the people that it's possible. And for example, in the case of the US, our entry market will be California. I mean, California have like a lot of these regulations surely related with the buildings, green buildings, and not to do greenwashing there. So yeah, I mean, is to try to apply like this to all these regulations in order to comply with them, but also to demonstrate that also it could be part of the solution as some natural things as our bio panel. So yeah, at the end we know very well that the laws or the technology have different velocity or how it's growing in a different time frame totally. Yeah. So yeah, and then I mean, because we're on the middle of different technologies, because at the end we're not renewable energy, only a renewable energy technology. We are not a construction material. We are not a living only system that is related with laboratories. So we are basically in the middle of all these areas. So it's, I mean, surely our first challenge for us will be how how to define our technology. That's a real challenge. How to define it in paper, you know? I mean, in a
Yeah.
big way, how to define this in paper, because they will ask you us how you define it as a building material or what it is. So
Mm.
at the end, we know very well that also is to help them to grow on this new way to transform the things and to date them. I mean, it's like we cannot define only one area. So that could be an initiative, surely, to think
Yeah.
about how the future will be. That, I mean, it's not defining basically the future, is how to help them to create new ways in order to promote this kind of technology. Yeah, surely we are not very well. You will know very well that probably on the first time we will receive like all these strikes, all this punch, and all this
Yeah.
stuff. For others, I mean, we're like the shield. You're the first person that you will receive all this stuff, you know. But I
Yeah.
mean, this will help to other people probably in the near future to have like a easier way to enter into this kind of markets and not to suffer the things that probably we will be suffer on that way. So yeah, and also at the same time, we are on close. Well, we are closer also to another markets, not only in the US, but for example, we are closer also to markets in Europe, in particular in Germany, where I mean, we know very well that also they have like very defined some things. Also, the
Yeah.
regulation are really strict. So I mean, probably we are looking for big challenge. I mean, I think that since the beginning we are looking for big challenge.
Yeah.
But also we are looking for big challenge related with regulations in order to demonstrate that this kind of technology could comply with them. And basically, if this technology could comply with them, this technology could be the solution not for, only for one city, but for many cities around the world,
Yeah.
because it's really crazy. I mean, it's really crazy, the climate change. It's really crazy, all these things that probably we don't meet all these things related with 2030, 2035. I mean, it could be really, really sad to see how the time will be over on the next year, that probably they say like, no, we don't meet the 2030. Now we will
Yeah.
have to meet the 2050. And after that, I mean, I hope to to reach the more than 2050, totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that doesn't matter for others, is how from our side to comply with them and help them. And as I told you before, is how to base all these efforts on the big cities. And why in the big cities? Probably other people say like, I mean, also we have the small cities and all this stuff. I mean, big cities, because at the end is where most of the contamination, pollution is where also most of the big challenge, big problems will be there. We will move there in some time. So yeah, is to the from the big cities begin start to create big impact. And in some way, as you mentioned before, when we achieve the big manufacturing in to sell this for the mass for mass population, we will achieve in a great way. Firstly, testing in big challenge, and after that, giving small solutions for different regions, surely.
Yeah. And that is that's a good point you raised, because there's a architect we love, Vishan Chakrabarty, and he says, if you love the nature, don't live in it, right? So like all the expansion that also happens beyond the cities, we're just like penetrating more into
Yeah,
the nature, right?
that's
So
true.
in theory, in this concept, the city is efficient, it's effective, but the way it's built today is not necessarily sustainable, right? So it's not about like the city concept, but how we're building the cities. And therefore, we really need to be smart about the technologies and materiality and the construction methods we're using while we're building, in order to mimic as much as we
Yeah.
can the nature in the cities where we're experiencing so many already, right? And unfortunately, I think now we see developing countries getting the most of the implications of climate change too, right? Like In Mexico City, you have a huge air pollution problem, and there's so many, like, we have the luxury to not feel that in New York City right now, but it's not so far-fetched. And we're also, blowing up ACs like there's no tomorrow, and
Yeah,
all buildings are freezing even if we don't need that much cold, and
that's
we're
true.
burning energy like crazy. So all cities have their, and countries and cultures have different problems that they need to address, which I think a solution like yours that is efficiently bringing together those while also just like using nature to mimic nature, we need to really just scale that, right? We need to be open to that. And with that, I think for any problem in the world, really, we always collaboration comes up, right? Like, how do we collaborate effectively, whether that's public-private collaboration or interdisciplinary collaborations, to be able to address something and really not only innovate but implement. And I do feel, as a design studio, like architects, like also like have the responsibility to really push for solutions like yours, right? And maybe the developer does not necessarily have the awareness
Yeah,
of such materials, but the architects, I feel like it's our it's responsibility to really be more aware of what's happening and what you can advocate for, even if it doesn't take place, right? So, and in the end, also because, and we had recently had a panel discussion on what's wrong with architecture, and one of the things came up was like form follows finance. So like what banks are giving loans to, or like construction loans to, or mortgages to, that also needs to be more almost driven by environmental factors. So what we are financing needs to change. What we're incentivizing also needs to change. Like ideally, if your technology looked like we're in a public-private collaboration, there should be incentives from the government to be using your technology for the developers, right? Or from the banks. And there would be an alliance among like architects to really like put forward technologies like yours. So with that, are you seeing any type of move towards that, or are you seeking such collaborations or partnerships to be able to really start implementing and scaling?
yeah, totally. I mean, in a few words, I define the architecture area as the heart of the project, the heart of the buildings. Because at the end, if we don't have like this part between the connection between architect area, sorry, and developers, it would be really, really hard to connect with developers. I mean, because as you mentioned, I mean, the developers is there to create like these great projects, surely, to put the money and connect with the banks and all
Yeah.
this stuff that will be related with the profits. And yeah, I mean, it's fine because at the end is their goal. But I think that is really relevant for us, really, really, really relevant, like this connection with the architect part, because at the end, the architects will be the people that will, for sure, will convince them why to create this great project, but also now is giving the opportunity to connect with other areas as us and the biotech, and probably more areas, and how to apply these new technologies. So I think that is a real a key area to try to figure out how will be the next cities, how will be the cities that we deserve with these new technologies. So yeah, I mean, this alliance and connection with several institutions and architect firms and all this stuff is really relevant for us, because again, as I told you, is how to create this story. I mean, it's how to create this story about how the cities will be, about how this technology could help to probably save a lot of or thousands of lives around the world. Probably it sounds like very cheesy or something like that, to save the world and save lives. But at the end it will be, because I mean, now thinking about like all this climate change and all this stuff, I mean, a lot of people will suffer, several thousand of people will suffer with that. So if we don't do anything, that could be really, really wrong. So yeah, there in the US, we have several talks and discussions with also big architectural firms in order to see how they are developing, how they are designing these great works, these great projects that are not only there in the US, that also are developing great mega projects basically in other parts of the world. So how is to try to integrate these now new technologies to the projects, and how we can demonstrate this big impact that is not only for the final user, because at the end, I mean, all these benefits, surely, who will be enjoying a lot is the final user, but what's happened with the clients. So on that way is that with the clients also is to help them to see that all this relation with the environment could help them to increase their branding awareness, relate with sustainability, connect with their ESG reports, that most of the big companies are struggling with the ESG reports, what to report, what to do to comply with our sustainability plans. So we tell them, I mean, look at them, we're here is the bio panels, how to help all this data in order to comply with with your ESG reports, how to mitigate more carbon footprint, and in a near future, probably the big companies will be financing these buildings in order to get these regenerative facades in order to say, okay, we can comply with the ESG reports, probably not in our company, not in our area where we are creating, manufacturing, whatever, but we can help to the city where we are with this regenerative facade that will impact millions of people there. So we are seeing that probably could be a great future and an interesting close future where the companies will be involved with this regenerative building, sorry, because at the end is, again, how to connect the industry, how to connect the private part now with the city, but more than that, how to connect, how will be growing, because at the end they are there and they are giving a lot. I mean, I don't want to say that. I mean, I I say it, but I think that at the end they are. I mean, all of us, we are part of the problem, but another part are more having more impact than others. You know, so it's to how to help at the end all the people that is living there. And yeah, it's great, but I mean, summarizing also is that we are on touch with big firms there in order to create like this history that convince the people that is really necessary, but also that have this real impact in economics, in society, in environmental. But also we are trying to do a lot of alliance with great institutes of research and development around the world in order to help us to adapt this technology for different regions. Because in the beginning, we knew very well that our technology not be only for Mexico. It's going to be a technology. I mean, we don't want to have a counter attack to say like this technology is from Mexico. It's great. I mean, for us, it's really, really great. But I think that the attack our technology will be a global technology. I mean, to say that this technology, I mean, because this is our purpose, that our purpose is that the technology will be released for the world. So yeah, also this how to engage also these R&D research institutes in order to test and also to adapt this technology for another regions that probably are suffering more than us, but that could be really great if this helped them.
Yeah. I think what you mentioned around ESGs is really important because, you know, globally we're facing an economically harsh climate and there are speculations that it will get worse. And the first thing that, you know, gets X'd out in projects is like new innovations or anything that might cost like slightly higher, right? And like trying something new. And we, to your point, go back to our comfort zone because of the fear. So I think the biggest challenge of the globe we're facing next year is that also recognizing the ESGs and the need for that is not going anywhere. And so how do we mitigate both, and how do we continue to invest towards the future if we really want to meet our 2050 goals? Because I honestly don't believe we're meeting our 2030 goals already. But like really continuing the work so that there is some goals that we meet in the near future, because this is merely a survival strategy at this point. It's not a nice to have. So I think the biggest challenge of all of us face, like in the upcoming years, is, and with the economic climate, the wars happening and whatnot, not forgetting the crisis that is already in place, which is the climate crisis, and we have to really be mindful towards that. So with that, Adan, I want to ask my last question, which is probably the biggest question also. What would be your advice to anyone who wants to make progress in an industry or push boundaries?
Yeah, that's a great question. Totally. I mean, I think that one thing that has like is one of the I think that is one of the successful things that we have made since the beginning is, again, to think globally. Firstly, I mean, to think global solutions. Totally, it would be, again, very poetic and all this stuff that, yeah, save the world, but that's true. I mean, that's true. Just to think about the global solutions, because at the end, we have discovered that a lot of solutions that probably, I mean, that are developing here, for example, in Mexico, had a lot of application in other areas of the world that are suffering the same. So what would happen if suddenly something else push these kind of solutions, not only for Mexico, but also to try and to test in other regions? I mean, it could be easier for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that firstly is to think globally on your solutions, and not only focus and not only get like these covers over your face, and to think about that, yeah, that's only to save my region and to save my family and relatives. Is also to think how you can impact in other parts. Basically get out of your comfort zone and to try to connect with another areas that probably you are not specialized on. I mean, I don't want to say that this will not work because I'm not architect, but at the end, I mean, you can join another expert people to your team in order to get more from them and to learn together, because at the end, I think that this way has been a learn pathway in order to achieve like this kind of technology, to impact different areas, to impact the more different people. I mean, I began on the biotech part, and I have been talking with developers, with real estate, with architects. That is a really different way that I don't have for sure the preparation for and the background in particularly, but with experience and with these talks and discuss, now I can translate all these scientific and technical parts in the language of the architects, in the language of the designers, in the language of the real estate. So I think that now I can understand how the cities where we are is building, is designing, is constructed. But now how to help them since my area in order to achieve more objectives, more challenge, more benefits for the people. So I think that is related to these people to try and give global solutions and to join more people from different areas in order to create complex solutions. Because at the end, I think that that's the word. I don't need rapid solution. I think that we don't need like quick solutions. Solution. I think that we need complex solutions, because the challenge that we have today are complex. I mean, it's not easy only to think about the global warming related with the CO2 emissions, to say, okay, you don't have to use your car. That's all. It's not. I mean, it's more complex than that, because we are thinking about food, we are thinking about the cars, we are thinking about the industry, we are thinking about the population growing and all this stuff. So yeah, we need complex solutions, but also complex teams.
Yeah, I love that. So recognizing we have complex problems to solve, therefore we need complex solutions, and to address that, we need diverse collaborations and project themes, and we need to think globally. So with all of that, thank you so much, Adan. This was such a treat, and we very much look forward to the growth of your business. So we could also see Greenfluidics on, facades of buildings and interiors, and instead of windows on roofs, like wherever we can see them, we would love to see them more. And we definitely encourage everyone to continue to follow your firm and get involved.
Surely, thank you so much. I really appreciate how this talk and to talk about like all these topics that are really necessary. Totally, I think so. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, we're really open to look for surely to collaborations, to design, to help them, and also, I mean, all the time we are trying to get out from our comfort zone because I think that every cycle that you are like going forward, at the end you ends in your comfort zone when you're feeling very well. So it's difficult also to try to get out from your comfort zone all the time. So yeah, I mean, we are really open to all these people that wants to create a new, a better world. I think so. And yeah, if that could be great, please keep in touch with us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye bye.
And that is this week's episode of What's Wrong with the Podcast. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcasting platform. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Links can be found in the episode description, and you can also find them on our website, podcast.what'swrongwith.xyz. If you found value in the show, we would appreciate if you could rate us and leave a review, or you can simply tell your friends about us. For more details on our guests, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to join us next week. Thank you for listening.